Hello there. My name is Lynn Jocelyn. I'm a functional medicine physician assistant, and part of my mission is to harness the power and the healing power in community, both for patients as well as practitioners. And so I'm just having these open, authentic conversations with other practitioners in our local area and also practitioners that work virtually, so we can support one another and share resources and then show up even more resourced for our patients and clients. So today I'm really excited because not only do I get to share Dr. Emmy Lawrason-Kobobel's powerful work, but she's also a dear friend. And Dr. Emmy and I just recently met, but we're kind of feel like we've known each other for a long time. So it's one of those beautiful synergistic connections. And so I'm very excited to share her powerful work. I've been lucky enough to be on her table and benefit with some profound healing. So without further ado, Dr. Emmy, would you share just a little bit? You're an osteopathic physician, and you do mostly osteopathic manipulation and treatment. So I'm just going to open it up to you to share a bit of your practice with us.
Yeah, I'll tell everybody a little bit about DOs because a lot of people don't even realize that maybe their primary care doctor is a DO or their surgeon was a DO. So the two licensed physicians in the US are DOs and MDs. Most people just think of MDs or just ignore what's behind the name. And the other thing we learn is manipulation. And that can go from anything from very, very gentle manipulation to all the way to what people think of manipulation, like a chiropractic style adjustment and everything in between. My specialty is cranial osteopathy, and that's a very gentle form of osteopathy. And a lot of people wonder, is that really still a manipulation or an adjustment? And I would say, yes, we're still moving bones, tissue, fluid, working with organs, the whole patient, but we're doing it in a much more gentle way by accessing the movement that's already going on inside the patient. And then with that movement, we're actually able to remove restriction and help the patient tap into their own healing process. So there's even different types of cranial osteopathy, but what I love about this particular approach is that we're really honoring the health in the patient. And we see ourselves as a partner with the patient and a healing process that is much older than us and has a lot more wisdom. And that is what we tap into to work with to try to help our patients. And we can treat everything from low back pain, upper back pain, migraine headaches, traumatic brain injury, babies with a history of tongue tie, difficulty latching, colic, geriatric patients who might have pain or arthritis. The list goes on and on. We can certainly look at more functional issues like digestive issues, and maybe be a partner with somebody like you, Lynn, who's working more functionally with the patient. There might be a component that there's a nervous system connection or something else going on that's affecting the patient's digestion. And when we work together, we're always more powerful. So.
Absolutely. And that was a beautiful description of what you do. And one thing that was really present in hearing you talk about your work, and this is present when I'm in your energy field as a patient, is the reverence for the work and the power in this deep wisdom of the body, of our own body's ability to heal. And you have a real gift because I mean, the minute I get on your table, like really, it's powerful. So I'm glad you do what you do. What was your calling to this, or how did you find osteopathy and medical school in that way?
You're very sweet to say what you just said. Thank you. It's such a funny story, actually. I kind of love the story of how osteopathy found me. I was a pre-veterinary student and a junior in college and had done a lot of prereqs for veterinary school, which are much more difficult than medical school, actually, because there was no standardization back then. So I was just kind of looking at schools and taking all these prerequisites that seemed to be appropriate for certain schools that I thought I would go to. Anyways, one day I picked up Spontaneous Healing by Andrew Weil. I had an old childhood friend whose mom had a heart attack, and it was a really big healing crisis for her. And she told me about this book. So I was reading it, and I read this chapter about Dr. Fulford, who was an osteopath in Arizona. At the time I was in Massachusetts, so Arizona felt very far away. Dr. Fulford has since passed away, but he was legendary in the osteopathic world. And I'm sure in the Phoenix and Tucson area somewhere, he was in somewhere in Southern Arizona. And he was well known by people by then, towards the end of his life, when Dr. Weil, who was just, I think, enamored with Dr. Fulford and the work he did. And honestly, when I read that chapter, it changed my life. Like in a flash, like I got hit over the head with a frying pan. It was like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be an osteopath and you're going to put your hands on people, and that's it. And it was funny because up to that point, I had friends who were like, don't you want to do human medicine? And I was like, no, I don't want to do human medicine. I want to treat animals. I love animals. And then after that, I was like, nope, I'm going to be an osteopath. And I remember I called my advisor the next day, my pre-med advisor, and I said, I want to go to osteopathic school. And she was like, great. And we just switched gears, and I started, making sure that those prereqs were done, which actually were much easier than the prereqs that I was already doing. And 2 years later, after I graduated, I was enrolled at Touro University College of Osteopathic Medicine and part of the class of 2006. So
Wow.
The rest of the day was history. It was just, and I stayed very true to the hands-on osteopathic vision because I feel very lucky. There's a lot of influence in school to do, and there's nothing wrong with family medicine or primary care or surgery. And, I had people who were like, well, why wouldn't you just do family medicine? And then you can still afterwards go and do hands-on. And I remember really considering doing that. And I even applied to family medicine residencies. And again, it was like, I was at this osteopathic course. I was a fourth year medical student 2 weeks before the match. And I knew that I couldn't do family medicine. And I, again, totally switched tracks, just listened to my heart and my gut, and matched at this place in Marquette, Michigan, didn't know where that was. And then just took my chances because the manipulation residency that I wanted to go to in the Bronx in New York City, there was no guarantee I was going to get in, but I got in. And then, now I'm a specialist. So in our world, right, the way that osteopathy works is you can do family medicine, you can do any specialty and do manipulation, but I decided I wanted to be a specialist in osteopathic manipulative medicine and really get that training in that craft,
Powerful. So
Yeah.
I like how you're like, I was hit over the head, and that, that happens that way sometimes for us, right? When we're going through life and we think we're going to go one direction and then boom.
Boom.
Often people aren't so able to listen to their heart and gut like you're describing. So that's powerful. And especially when we're younger and already going down a path. So that ability, honestly, I think that adds to you. I mean, I just think that's part of who you are, and trusting that intuition and that powerful within. And that's what makes you such a powerful practitioner and physician in that hands-on ability. So okay, that was 2006. I think you said, I don't know if I got that piece right, but early 2000s, mid 2000s. And then you went on, did your residency, started your practice, and now let's flash forward to 2022. Have you been able to keep that spark going the whole time, or has it dimmed a bit, and you've sort of had to get it back up? Or share, because part of what I want to open up in these conversations is like practitioner burnout is real, and how, curious on how people really harness their passion and are able to continue that, right? Because when you're giving, in the healing art, it's hard. So I'd love to have you share if that it resonates with you.
Yeah. We've had several career changes just in the sense of moves, and I think that has kept things fresh. I was in Denver for 3 years with a wonderful osteopath, but I knew I was ready to be on my own. I knew that I had what it took to run a practice. I mean, it terrified me at first, but then we moved to Bend, Oregon, and I opened my own practice. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence. And there was so much growth that happened there. I never really got that burnout. I always made my schedule very reasonable. In Denver, I worked 4 days a week. In Bend, the most I ever worked was 3.5 days a week. I still saw a lot of patients and worked really hard, but having that time off really has made a difference. And I think the fact that I've always had my autonomy in my work has made a big difference. And then, of course, when I was in Oregon, I studied a lot with Jim Jealous, who is a DO who passed away in 2021. So it was about a year ago. And, but I had the opportunity to do all the courses that Jim offered up to the point of the pandemic. And I think that really helped keep the burnout, any kind of burnout or feeling like you're just kind of treating patients day in and day out and not seeing things in a fresh way. I was doing 2 to 3 courses a year. And I think that really formed me in such a different way than if I hadn't done those courses with Jim.
Absolutely.
And so I think I've just been so lucky, and then of course I had my daughter who's now 3.5. And so that changed my practice. I had to cut back. And then we moved, now we've moved back to Durango. So there was a period of time where, you're starting your practice, you're like barely seeing any patients, and I'm much busier now, but still growing my practice. And, so I think I've had enough transition. I don't know what it would feel like if I'd been 12 years in the same place, doing the same thing. I think if it weren't for this continuing medical education that I continue to do, now I help teach in Sedona with a close friend and colleague of mine, Oline Adams, who's just amazing osteopath and was also very close to Jim. And so I think if it weren't for those types of things, it would be really hard. But I keep my schedule very reasonable. I won't work more than 4 days a week. Right now I work 3 days a week. So I think just being able to keep the balance is really key. And I feel like I've been lucky to be able to do that. I don't know that every physician or practitioner has that choice. I mean, without making just a ginormous change in their life, so I would say I've had sadly enough, it's been a very unique experience as a physician. I think most people don't feel this way.
Well, I think you bring up some really key things. Autonomy is huge, right? When you look at burnout in general, a lot of it is that loss of autonomy. So you've made that a priority in your choices, and then transition, right? Changing the lens you're looking through and flowing with life. So it's wonderful to hear that you've been able, and like hearing you talk about this just now and as we've grown our relationship and hearing the love for your work, it's really a passion from within. And then when you were talking about teaching in Sedona with your friend or colleague, I just had this sense that you both learned from Jim. Forgive me, I can't think of his last name, but Jim Jelly and Jim Jealous, Dr. Jim Jealous. And I feel like now it's a legacy, like you two, having learned from him, are now able to carry on his work. And that's just so powerful. I mean, it's powerful because this is just my opinion and experience, but these hands-on healing arts that are rooted in such historical healing arts, I guess I'm not exactly saying that right, but I wonder if they're a lost art. And so I think that piece of really the word reverence just keeps coming up for me in this conversation. It's in the reverence that you have for the healing arts that you get to do. That's powerful.
And I think, it's so true. And I think it's so rejuvenating in this type of work, you have to get together with your colleagues and you have to collaborate. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but it's hard because sometimes you can start getting a little lost in, okay, what is this new landscape I'm feeling? Because no one treatment is ever the same, or I should say no two treatments are ever the same. So it is constantly evolving, and the way I treat now is different than the way I treated 5 years ago. And what I feel in patients now is different than what I felt, because your sensitivity and your perception is consistently changing, and you're consistently shown different things based on your skill,
Absolutely.
and I'm very grateful to have those touchstones with my colleagues, because it's really what keeps me growing as a practitioner. But I mean, also my patients keep me growing. Someone will show up and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I always say, let's try 3 treatments, give me 3, 4, 5 treatments. Let's see if we can make a change. And there are times where I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to help this person. And then inevitably that's the person that gets better.
Isn't that powerful? Yeah.
Okay, I just learned a lot. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And that's what keeps it fresh.
And you're so humble. You really are. And I think that piece, patients really resonate too, right?
Yeah.
And that piece that you mentioned early on in our conversation, your partner. And like, I think that gets to be the change in medicine, and how we support healing is not as doctor or practitioner as do this, but more like let's work together. How can we collaborate? This is your healthcare. This is and your body's powerful. So I love partnering with you, for my personal health, and I love the opportunity to share clients. So how do you, because you are like, regardless of really good boundaries, which you have great boundaries, your schedule, how much time you can give here and there, and boundaries are critical. How else do you resource your personal self? Like, how do you fill up your cup? Because we can have those weeks, right? We're really big or hard patients, or just feeling like, oh, I don't know what to do. What are your practices?
Yeah, getting outside is really key. I love going for early morning walks with my dogs. Kind of just starts the day off right a lot of times. Recently, I've become a dance teacher, and that's been really fulfilling for me. That's just a really big piece of my soul, and a whole nother side of myself. And that's been so fun. And teaching is a whole different deal than just taking classes. There's something that I really get so much from teaching and connecting, with people coming to my classes or my one class. And so that's been a really big part of recent recharge. And of course, I'm a mom, so I don't have a ton of time, and I love spending a lot of time with my daughter. But really, it's all about getting outside, even just for little bits here and there. I do meditate as well. I do guided meditation with an app on my phone, and I find that really helpful. And I'd say those are really the main things,
Beautiful. And I think that's, do you find, I don't know, for me personally, I, at different times of my life, different practices resonate more. And sometimes I'm more consistent than others. And typically if I have a rough week, I'll look back and I'll say, oh, well, I didn't get on my yoga mat. I didn't resource in the ways I know served me. So
Yes.
It's all of it. And as a, working full-time, having your own practice, and a mom, that's a lot to juggle. So, and powerful, right? Because you get to role model to your sweet little one. So Emmy, as we get closer to kind of closing up here, I've been asking everybody, because this is so important for our own personal growth as well. And so that we can continue to, as practitioners, be, to serve our patients. What lights you up? Like, what is like the thing that lights you up the most that you want to get out of bed to do every day?
Oh my gosh. What is the thing that gets me out of bed every day? I don't know. I mean, it's just so exciting to see what each day is going to bring. Like, I feel so lucky. Like, I get to go to work and I love my work. I get to take my day off and hang out with my daughter and maybe get a little bit of alone time. Of course, time with my spouse too. But or what adventure are we going to take next? But it really is that balance and that variety that gives that, I guess, spice to my life right now.
Yeah.
That I just really love. So it's sort of that holistic, it's like the whole really that makes me get out of bed every day and feel excited about the day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. And that honestly, that's the perfect thing to light you up because you get up every day. So
I know. I gotta get up every day and I do have to work and I get to go to work and love my work. And so I'm not just sitting there yearning to be home or wishing that I was doing something else, you know, and I think that's a gift that was given to me in this life.
And even just semantics, I get to go to work versus I have to go to work. So it's
Yeah.
powerful, right? Our words
Yeah.
are really powerful. So where, if somebody is watching this, because I'm sharing this with different community members, and if they wanted to work with you, and I'll put your website on there, but where would they find you? And maybe where would they find you? And well, I'm not going to limit it because I know you treat everything, but do you have like a patient, an illness or something that you'd love to treat? I'm rambling now, but what's your perfect patient?
I like, again, I'm just such a like jack of all trades, love the variety, don't really like to just see, you know, children or just adults or just older people. I like it all. I like variety. I am just as happy to treat your run-of-the-mill low back pain, which is never really run-of-the-mill, but it is the most common diagnosis that walks through my office because people think of manipulation and they think of hands-on, you know, they think of pain and what kind of hands-on work could I do to help the pain? But there's a lot of other, you know, like I was telling you, functional things that we can treat and help treat, like digestion. People with Lyme and mold issues can benefit just as like a partnered type of treatment along with all the other things that they're doing to help their body detox. You know, babies, older people, the whole gamut. So I don't really have a perfect patient.
Yeah.
My perfect practice is a varied practice. I think I would just get bored if I only saw, you know, 3 different diagnoses and, you know, only one age group. So, you know, and we're really good about telling people if they call and I'm like, listen, I have no idea if we're going to help you. I'm really upfront about that. But I don't do primary care. So that's sometimes a question that I get. And then how could people find me? So the name of my practice is Durango Osteopathic Care. And you can find me, Lynn's going to put up my website, but it's dremmy.com. So pretty easy to find. And right here in Durango on East 2nd Avenue. And here I am. And I always just say, I never want to limit it. So, you know, if someone says, listen, I know that you're telling me you may not be able to help, but I want to come see you anyways, I would say to them, absolutely. And the nice thing is we take insurance. So for some people, it becomes a very affordable option, which is really great because a lot of people think of any alternative type of healthcare as, you know, not covered by insurance. And I'd say that we're lucky enough that we get to be a little unique in that way.
Absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. It's so powerful and it makes such a difference. Well, Dr. Emmy, thank you so much for taking the time to visit today. I just want to say to anybody listening, again, like I have been lucky enough to have your hands support my body for healing, and it is powerful. This form of treatment is, every time I get with you, I say, but I don't get like what, you know, my brain's trying to figure it out because you're very intuitive and go, and I always feel better getting off that table. So I'm grateful, and reach out, whoever's listening. If you have questions, reach out to me. I can always get you in touch with Dr. Emmy. I will have her website, and you can schedule visits there, reach out to her. And anyway, well, thanks for taking the time, and we'll look forward. This will be posted soon, and we'll look forward to our next conversation. All right.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Thanks. All right.
Have
Have a great day.